Welcome to the Jon Corbin Podcast. My name is Jon Corbin. This is a show of meaningful conversations where I sit down with artists, thinkers, and interesting people to tell stories on the themes of creativity, inspiration, community, and learning together. You can find out more about the podcast at my website, joncorbinmusic.com, and you can find me on social media. My Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram handles are at Jon Corbin Music. That's JONCORBIN. That's right, there is no H. Finally, we are Patreon supported. You can find out more at patreon.com/Jon Corbin. Your Patreon support is greatly appreciated. It not only allows the show to keep running, but allows it to reach for higher levels. If you want to provide monthly support, there are no tiers. You can just pay what you choose, and that gives you access to bonus material around the podcast, but also exclusive creative work like new songs, poems, essays, and a whole lot more. It's the Jon Corbin Podcast. My name is Jon Corbin. I'm here with my special guest. Who are you?
I am Orijin, otherwise known as Jordan Heywood. I'm a human being who values compassion, connection, and critical thought. I'm a husband. I'm a deep feeler of emotions. And I am a black man who uses he and him pronouns.
Welcome, Orijin.
It's a pleasure to be here, brother.
And Jordan. I will use those simultaneously.
Go for it. Most people don't get that privilege, but you know me in all contexts.
Yes.
So
good.
I'm in. Yeah, man.
Orijin, who do you hold close?
My wife, Amanda. We are best friends. I mean, it should be a given, but it's not always. But yeah, hold her pretty close. She holds me close. Just my family. I'm pretty close with my parents and my older brother and sister. My homeboy, Jeremy Rodney Hall. I got some friends from high school that I've kept in touch with for a lot of years. Think of my man, Gerard. I got my homie, Gavin, Nigel, my cousin, some guys from church, Dave and MJ. Yo, shout out all my peoples. Yeah, I hold close people that I connect with, whether it's on a creative level or a spiritual tip, or just people who I can be authentic with and totally let the guard down. People around whom I really feel seen deeply are people who win my heart and my connection. Yeah.
That's really dope. That's a thoughtful answer.
I try.
Jordan, what inspires you?
What inspires me is conversations, man. Is reflecting on myself, on things I observe in the world, reflecting on ideas and how I come to know what I know. I don't know. This sounds super abstract, but what inspires me is just moving through life and finding opportunities to learn and unlearn when it's healthy to do that. At the core, what inspires me is seeing people be liberated and like unburdened from stories about who they're supposed to be. So when I see people just operating in life in a way that you can just tell is like authentic and free and joyful, like that inspires and excites me. And I'm inspired to live my life moving closer to that kind of authenticity and unburdening. So yeah, that's a constant theme for me, is just liberation of the self and an unburdening of just unhelpful, constrictive stories, labels, beliefs.
Yeah. That is inspiring. That's about freedom.
Yeah, I think the yearning to experience freedom is, I mean, I think it's universal, and it's something that I think about a lot. And it's funny, like as I use my art to try and invite people into their own experience of freedom, it always just comes right back to me wanting to experience that more deeply for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
And in that sense, there is this sort of, I don't know what the imagery is, like, it just feels, it to me, like I see waves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like you're watching people go through this stuff and encouraging, and it comes back and sort of washes over you and allows, allows some things to be swept away or eroded.
Mm-hmm.
And so like your healing helps their healing and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really diving in here, but heck, why not? Like, I noticed that in a lot of my music, like in my writing process, I'm thinking about, man, like I want to encourage somebody with this song or with this message. And then, whether I finish the song or not, put it out or record and perform it and whatnot, get a response. And then I realized, wait, did I just do all this because I needed the approval of people? So then it comes back to me like, wait, am I liberated myself, or am I just trying to help people feel liberated so that I can feel better? It's just kind of this endless loop of kind of examining the self and expressing out into the world.
Yeah, like you said examining the self-examination. The word I was going for was second guessing. I don't know if it's the same thing, but is that sort of a process for you, or maybe a rhythm that you get into?
All the time. All the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I think there is a part of me that just perpetually second guesses if I have anything important to say. If
right.
If my experience resonates with others, or if my way of showing up in the world as an artist or just as a person is going to like do harm to others, there's always a second guessing about, I guess, like the value and validity that I bring to the table as a person, as an artist. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that part ever goes away, but I hold that with me, and I try and embrace and comfort that part of me and let them know, hey, I got your validation right here. Like you've got important stuff to say. I'm vibing with this music. I'm vibing with this idea. So certainly I think second guessing is a regular rhythm for me, and it gives me opportunities for self-reflection. And it also means like I have to constantly practice a kind of like mindfulness.
Mm-hmm. I really like when you talked about providing comfort for this part of you, mm-hmm. because I can see it as an aspect that someone might feel shame about or frustration, and then and stuff it, mm-hmm. right? Be quiet. We're not listening to you, mm-hmm. right? And sort of ignore that. But and I've been doing a little bit of reading about this as well, but I think that you have this mindset or approach that like, this is a part of me. I'm gonna validate that I feel this way, mm-hmm. and that because it's a part of me, I'm gonna provide it care.
That's it, exactly.
I found that approach very impressive, because that's not how I grew up. That was not my self-talk, mm-hmm. on the come up.
Yeah.
So I'm growing into that as an adult.
Mm. Yeah, you're not alone. Neither was it my normal growing up either. I think my experiences of doing therapy, of undergoing training and education to be a therapist, and just having a lot of really safe, like emotionally safe spaces for conversation and like processing with people in my life, it's given me opportunities to, I guess, view myself in a different light, view those parts of me in a different light. Yeah, I think we really have to experience a kind of safety with others and then with ourselves.
Right.
To be able to look at, for example, like, myself speaking on a platform, claiming to have like authority on a subject that I'm like giving a workshop about or something. And to be able to say, hey, it's okay for me to not know everything. It's okay for me to not have to present myself as like complete expert, know-it-all. Yeah, because I feel like that's something that we tend to strive for when others expect it of us. We expect it of ourselves. Yeah, so really when it comes to the inner work that I've been doing over these last few years, it's just been about embracing myself as I am, seeing myself as worthy of love, while being in process, while being human. I don't know
That's
how we
real.
got on this tip, bro, but we in here.
I was going to say, this is indicative of conversations that we have.
Yeah.
Maybe not like, how are you? I'm really hurting inside. It doesn't really, we usually get some laughs in, but it's definitely indicative of the conversations we have.
Yeah.
I'm
It
mindful of our audience in this regard. I mean, I don't usually make people answer it this way, but when you said, my name's Orijin and I'm this and this and this, I think the conversation since then has like provided a window into who you are, but I would love a little bit more details around like what you do. Cause you do some things.
I do things sometimes. So I'm an MC. I'm a rapper, poet, spoken word artist, songwriter. Been doing that for about 10 years. And I am also a registered social worker and psychotherapist. Yeah, so I've practiced in that field in a number of different spaces, working with youth, working with families. In particular, right now, a lot of my work is with African, Caribbean, and Black Canadian families.
Okay.
In the Halton region in Ontario. So, yeah, providing some kind of specialized, more nuanced, more culturally responsive, clinical care for families who are not only facing issues related to mental health and emotional health, family conflict and things like that, but also racial trauma and issues related to barriers in school and different services they might access. So that's a big piece of my life. That's where I invest a lot of my time and mental energy. And I really see my clinical work as a social worker and my creative vocation as being kind of like two pedals on the same bike. And that's been a more recent understanding for me because my world felt really like fragmented for quite some time.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, this like being liberated, this experience, this constant pursuit of wanting to be like liberated, to just be the fullest version of me at this stage means, I just see myself as someone who values compassion, who wants to humanize every interaction possible. And I want my music to have that effect when people listen to it. I want people to feel seen. I want people to feel encouraged and capable, and be able to relate to me and to others around them. And likewise, when I'm doing like a counseling session with somebody, I want them to experience those things, to feel seen, to feel worthy, to feel that they matter, and to have a kind of healing experience. So that's the stuff that I do in terms of vocation.
That's really cool. That's really cool. It's neat to see that sort of evolution where you can see those two aspects of, like you said, the two pedals on the same bike. That's a really great image. It's encouraging.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right.
That's a good question.
All right. The big one. Describe yourself in one word.
Oh, man. Yo, I'm not going to lie. So readers, readers. So listeners, John sent me this question before. I couldn't think of it. I asked my wife, Amanda, for help. So the word is passionate.
Yeah.
And I'm using it because I agree. When I care about something, I care pretty hard. So, yeah, sticking with that.
That's good. That's good. And that's been very evident in our conversation so far. Mm-hmm. All right. Do you want to know how I describe you to other people behind your back?
I'm really curious to know, man.
Here's what I love about Jordan is this. It's you use the word passion, which really stands out, but there's a persistence for presence, and it always gets me. Now, I've posted about this online. I say, like, when I'm having a difficult mental health season or time or even day, I put on your record Timepiece, because that is the convergence of those two worlds that you're talking about. And I will bring that record up. I will bring songs up to at my school where I work, or even the place where I worked before, where I was working with challenged students, sort of rubbing shoulders with child and youth counselors and social workers, educational assistants, like, not as many teachers as the support staff. And I'd say, like, I know you might not like hip hop, but man, listen to the song Breathe, where the bridge has everyone do this mindful circular breathing in a hip hop song. I love it. That sort of integration.
Thank you, man.
And I do that myself. And I think, like, there's so many cool songs on that record, but Be Still, how do I say this? I actually don't listen to the whole song because the first line says, "Shh, quiet. Tell me what you hear now." And then there's just silence for another measure. And then you say, "Are you here now?" Yeah. And I go, "All right, am I locked in yet?" And then I actually don't need the rest of the song. I do this with records. I do this with albums where I'm like, if you hit a high on a record so high on a like album so high that I'm just like I've lost it. I'm in cloud nine. I'm like, thank you for the rest of your record, but I will not need it. I do not need track 6 through 10 because track 5 was so dope, and I never get past it.
I'm so glad I buried that song at like number 7.
Number 7.
Because if that was the intro track, man, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
No, it would be. I'd be, I like that song you did.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for acknowledging that. That means a lot to me, man.
Yeah, and we've had those conversations too. And again, where you push me into presence. And so it's just like persistence. And it is gentle. It's not aggressive. But the insistence is there. And I've always appreciated it. Now, and we have this in conversation, but I think that shows me that you are an advocate for that in people. And so, if you're passionate and you're persistent about presence, I also think that you really care. And sometimes you pursue. I guess I'm doing alliteration on purpose now, but
roll with it, man.
But yeah, there's a reason that you're on the podcast. But I have asked the listeners to trust me as I curate these conversations because of the people I think that they need to hear from. And so it's a treat to have you here with your persistent, passionate presence.
Thank you. I'm really affirmed and encouraged by your words, brother.
Good. All right. So the question I ask, because everyone's got a story, and I forget a large percentage of them. Where did we meet?
Okay, so I'm sure this is the case for a lot of guests that you'll be having on, where it's like, there was a moment when you first met, but it's just been so many different meaningful interactions over such a large span of time that it's like, wait, when did we actually forge a relationship? So the first interaction that I am aware of, I was in high school. I don't even know what grade I was in. Was that 10 or 11? Lord knows. This was like 2008, 2000. Yeah, I think it was 2008. Man, I'm dating myself here, but as a baby, mind you. Yeah, so I was part of our high school's green team, which was our environmental learning and action club. So me and my boy Gerard and a few other of our peers, we, along with the green team, went on this field trip, well, if you can call it that, went on a trip to another school in the area where there was, I guess it was like a students' conference about environmental awareness and issues and stuff like that. There was a bunch of different seminars and workshops and things. Anyway, all I remember is that at this event, at this big students' conference, somebody named Jon Corbin, who was a teacher at this school, that we were visiting. I'd never heard of the dude, but he was giving a workshop. I don't even know what it was about. Was it about recycling or something like that?
I know exactly what it was about.
You gotta fill in the gaps.
So it was a student-led conference.
Yeah.
And in the school where I worked was a very high-achieving school, so the students were very driven. If it's 2008, it's probably my second year of teaching.
Okay, wow.
So I'm integrating myself into the culture of the school and just trying to, get my feet wet as a teacher. And so the students asked me for some kind of contribution, and so I gave them, like I normally do, the names of people that they can connect with, because I like making those connections. And so I gave them a name of an artist that had done some work with a Ontario town in creating a song around green initiatives.
There we go.
And I thought he would be perfect to bring in to share the song and talk about, the connection between the arts and the environment. And
who
so
was that? Which artist was that?
I can't say.
Okay.
I can't say because because they wound up bailing on the event the night before the event.
Dang.
So I get an email the night before, and that's why I can't say, because it's all love, but it put me in a position. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's incriminating. That's okay.
It's definitely all love, no hard feelings. But I got this email, and he said he couldn't come, and so I had a decision to make, and so I decided to do the workshop myself.
Okay.
So that night and the next morning, I put together a presentation around the idea of music environmentalism, and basically did it on the spot 2 or 3 times, however many sessions there were. So the guy that you saw up there had no intention of being up there.
That's crazy.
It was not planned to be up there. But, I like music, and I was able to make some connections. And I even threw some hip hop in it.
Yeah. You did a verse, right?
I don't remember if I did a verse. I definitely played Syntax of Terrific's, one of his verses from Deep Space 5.
Okay.
And yeah, I connected. Connected as much as I could. But that was it's a cool story for me because it tests your mettle and your creative energy.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah, the limits do help with the creativity. But yeah, I was not supposed to be up there, and I probably had less than 12 hours to prepare.
I had no idea the context behind that. I just remember this cool teacher, black dude, sharing some really great insight and talking about his musical career. And you name dropped that you had worked with Shad, and me and my boy Gerard were both like hip hop heads, and we were huge Shad fans. So we're like, what? This guy works with Shad? That's crazy. So then after you gave your presentation, we came up and I just gave you daps and said, yo, thanks for the presentation. And I think I asked where I could find your music. And after that, I remember, I don't know if I got in touch right away, but I definitely looked you up online. I listened to a couple of your tracks. I can't remember what you had. I can't remember what I listened to, but I just remember starting to follow your music online. And I saw I think it was a video that you did for urban excursions or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I was just following you for some time. And then when I had some music that I was working on, because this is I started rapping in 2009. So I wasn't even rapping at that point when we met.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember sending you, I think, whether it was a video or a demo track or something, and just being like, hey, man, I'm following your music. I met you at this thing at the school, and I appreciate your inspiration. So check this out. And then from there, we were not in touch frequently, but we had contact. And over the years, as I became more active with my music, I think we would speak more. And fast forward a few years after that, you kind of took on a real big brother mentor role for me, in life and in creativity. I remember you really coaching me in my rap career, my rap skills, giving me prompts to write verses based on a Bible verse, or start with the first lyrics, start with the opening line of another hip hop song that I like and take it from there. I just remember a lot of weekly or bi-weekly writing exercises that you would give me that really helped me to just stretch my writing ability. And fast forward some more years, you joined the Lost and Found team, which was we're still Lost and Found family, although it's changed shape a little bit. But at that time, the record label Lost and Found consisted of myself, Jeremy Rodney Hall, Mark Dirksen, Jermaine Wall as our manager, DJ. We've had a lot of years of really building together deeply, just as friends, as brothers, and as collaborators. So you've had a huge impact on my life, man. When I think about my inner circle, or somebody who I would call if I'm having a bad day or want to share exciting news, you're often one of the first people that I reach out to. So it's much deeper than music now.
Dang.
Yeah.
Man, thank you for sharing that story. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I
There's a lot.
don't remember. The writing prompts and that.
You don't remember that stuff?
No, I don't remember it at all. Wow.
Oh, man, that's so funny. I was like, yo, this guy's investing so much of his life and energy into discipling me in my rap career. And you're like, what? I did what? That's hilarious.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all true, and it was all love. I just don't remember it.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad. I remember the first. I probably listened to it more than you do. The mixtape, 1,000 words.
Oh my gosh! Wow, I struggle to listen to that.
Yeah,
it's that second guessing part. Oh man, wow. Yeah.
See, I'm pulling it up on my iTunes right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I love 2011. Uh, so if I had my way, I would get you to redo that record
Wow.
because I love first records. I don't like listening to my first record either. Like let's be clear. Let's be
That's
really
great.
clear.
Yeah.
Because you can hear the stuff that you could do better.
Of course.
But I also think that there are some real highs on that record. Like when I can go back and listen to it and not pick it apart and be like, yo, okay. There's something there. Like it's like I enjoyed listening to that. But in this season, for me, where we have all been overloaded, and the impact on me is words have been hard to come by. It's been really hard for me to write.
Yeah.
I've been going back to that stuff and going and just investing in it, providing it some care, remixing stuff.
Right.
And when I hear the potential in 1,000 words, and I go, oh man, let me just give him some new beats.
Wow.
And you just re-rap them and like just see how far you've come. Because a lot of times when I was like rap verses from my earlier stuff, I would pause and have a little less criticism and just be like, this actually makes sense. It sounds good. Like I've always been, those inner voices or that inner dialogue where you're like, your rhyme schemes aren't as good as such and such. And you're always going to be catching up to so-and-so. And then you look at it and go, man, I was doing, double rhyme schemes back in like 2010. Like I had only been rapping for like 3-4 years. Like, where's that come from? Like you just kind of, that's how I feel about that record where I'm like, I think you would be impressed and other people would be impressed if you did that record again.
Wow. So at the beginning, I was talking about the second guessing part, the anxious part of me that's like, oh man, is there any quality, any value to like what I'm saying? That part is just anxious, bro.
Am I making you anxious right now?
No, you're really doing the opposite. You're really soothing that part.
Good.
By affirming the value of that work that I did 10 years ago, which is hard for me to listen to because I experience shame when I listen to it. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I put this out. What? I was off beat here. I was like rapping way too slow on this track. Oh my gosh, that's the rhyme scheme I used. What? So there's just a deep like self-criticism that happens for me when I listen to oftentimes when I listen to older creative works of mine. And so what you're doing by just like highlighting what you appreciate about that project, it's helping me tap into a kind of self-compassion. It's helping me to look at myself, my 10 years ago self who wrote that, with greater appreciation for, like, I'm curious now to go back and listen, not as a critic of like what I could do better, but as like, yo, like, what did I have to say? Like, what was my writing process like? How do I feel listening to this music? I'm curious now. Whereas before I would have just been content. Like 5 minutes ago, I would have been content never listening to that again because of the shame. So,
right.
Yo, thanks for helping me tap into that.
You're welcome. When I got into hip hop at Laurier, I remember sitting around, talking with the heads, not really knowing anything. And they were schooling me. Actually, they were talking about Illmatic by Nas from 94. And they were talking about this and that and this aspect and that. I didn't know anything about the record. But as I got into the genre, I understood that Nas for a long time was always chasing that record.
Right.
And there is a lot, there's been a lot of ink spilt about the first record and the sophomore slump. And,
of course,
but rarely rarely was the finger pointed at the industry for the ways that they created the sophomore slump.
Yeah.
But it did also affirm in me the value of those early writings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you listen to a Brief Word, my first record, you're gonna hear all of my heart in ways that only manifest itself further the more I go along.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hear songs about race. You're going to hear songs about spiritual healing. You're going to hear songs about or being mixed race, looking within myself, self-care, marriage, like, love and hip hop, justice. Like, that's not me. Like, has that not been, the rest of my music for the rest of my career? Like, those seeds are there early.
Yeah.
And so it's like sometimes someone does an amazing first record, and sometimes like there's room to grow. Mm-hmm. But there's so many seeds in the first one. I just have been thinking a lot more about what would it be like to revive that stuff with love. Let me tell this quick story. This is a lot of where it's come from.
Get it.
Some of the people in my life have been able to do the same thing for me, point back to certain records, like the live record that came after A Brief Word. And then, man, I listen to that all the time. I'm like, what? We did that in one take. we didn't, it was supposed to be multi-tracked. We didn't get it. It wasn't multi-tracked. It was like it was their fault. Like, it was one take mixed on the fly, and that's the record. And you're listening to that. And so that kind of does that spark for me. My daughter got me when I first got a record player, my daughter got me a vinyl by an Albertan country singer named Corb Lund, who I like own a song of. And I'm just like, where does this come from? My kids, the first year I got turntables, they bought me random records. And some of them I, listened to, and then it's like, thank you very much. And, they made their way to the thrift store. But some of them stuck around. And Corb Lund it sparked me because the cover art was all about like why we're doing this. It's like, it was Corb Lund. It was old Corb Lund songs done in a studio, live off the floor. And that's like, when I was really into rock music, that's like my favorite way to record rock music, or like listen to, get everyone together, play it off in the studio. And then I went and did that with the Palindrome record. But I've been sitting with this record for like 2-3 years going, I wonder what it would be like to take my old songs, get a band, go back into the studio. What would it sound like?
Wow.
Would I have more, like, not even more love for it, but like, would it have value? Would it be? And I'm like, I've slowly started to believe, yeah, I would.
I'm intrigued because it's a few minutes ago you mentioned how hard it is for you to listen to your own first record. Yet I'm also hearing that there's this appreciation and like a curiosity about what it would be like to revive them. That sounds really dope.
Well, if the music reflects your passion, then then you're reminded of it. Right? What makes your heart beat?
Yeah.
Right? It's in there. So I'm sorry, if other folks might think it's whack, but at least I did that, right? It's maybe this sort of dual nature of it. Do I still believe the words I say?
Right.
How cool is it that 2007, 14 years later, I'd still believe in like 95% of those words? I think that's really cool. And so it actually reminds me of, the conversation we're having about like nurturing these parts of yourself.
Yeah.
So like these creative expressions that become these little children that you've birthed, like, how can I bring that thing close and like see it for what it is, and like, either provide it comfort or provide myself comfort, or let it speak to me again about who I am and where I was in those moments, the stories that came out in those moments, and not just consider their deficiencies.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Just
That's
like
compassionate
self-care for
right
artists.
there. Yeah, truly. Because, I mean, we all know, and it's familiar language to think of art as a reflection of the artist, obviously, right? So it's interesting how sometimes a certain amount of time passes or some critique of that art happens, and we may begin to view it with contempt.
Yeah.
But it's like that's a reflection of you, like that came out of your heart. And I'm speaking this to myself right now. Yeah, I think it can be really healing to, it's really meaningful to go back into the archives and listen to old creations, or if you're an artist with a different medium, watch your first film, look at your first painting, and just notice what comes up for you, like what feelings come up towards that piece of art. Yeah, I think it's telling.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I will say that the offer stands that if you ever wanted to rewrap those words, I got a bunch of beats for you. I would love to see what that looks like.
Give me give me some time to listen back through it, and you might have yourself a deal, man.
Woo!
Yeah.
Brokering deals on the Jon Corbin podcast.
That's what this show's about, right?
Yeah, that's what it's about. I always tell people I got into music for the demos.
What do you mean by that?
All I ever want to hear is people's demos. That's it.
Just the rawest, realist version.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
The potential of what might be. I had a record as a teenager called the Jesus Record by Rich Mullins and the Ragamuffin Band. And it was a unique record because it was written by Rich and then he died. And so then the Ragamuffin Band took all those demos and went into the studio and cut the studio record.
Wow.
And they released it as a double disc. And the first one is the demos that he recorded, just playing guitar, playing piano. And then the second one is the studio one. And I never got around to the studio one. I only listened to the demos. The demos just caught me.
Huh.
It's like, that's the rawest thing. That's the realest thing. It was him in a church just singing.
Wow.
And like, I remember those days when I had time and could find an open space or a rehearsal space or the church where I used to go, like, just to go and play and be present. And, and to me, so much music is so much about connecting with God. Yeah, I just never, the shine and the polish that they put on it.
Yeah.
Never caught me the same way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. I just like listening to demos.
That's where the magic lives, man.
All right, so I have guests on this show come with a story. The overarching themes for me in considering this work are themes of creativity, inspiration, community, and learning. And so I ask folks to think about stories where either we've collaborated or stories they want to tell that connect to one or many of those themes. So it works well when I've known someone as long as Jordan, but I do not know what story is coming. What story would you like to tell us today?
I would like to tell the story of Just Love.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I believe it was end of April or beginning of May 2019. When
the world, a lot has happened since then.
Yeah, it was a different era of life. We received a message. I think it was directly from our homeboy, Mr. Mark Dirksen, who you can catch on a previous episode of the Jon Corbin podcast. And he had basically relayed an invitation to us for an opportunity to facilitate a workshop at his church in Toronto. They were looking to facilitate a conversation, an information session about restorative justice. Their church, I believe, had just relocated or opened a new campus right in downtown Toronto, whereas its previous location was a little bit more away from the downtown core and be a little bit more suburban. And so their congregation was encountering people, situations that were a little bit maybe, from their perspective, off-putting or uncomfortable, seeing people who are street involved around, seeing people panhandling, experiencing, seeing sirens and cop cars in this neighborhood and just seeing some things that they might not have seen in their previous neighborhood. So wanted to create some space for people to just understand how to be with their neighbor in a compassionate, justice-oriented way, as opposed to what we can all be tempted towards, which is a way of just feeling uncomfortable, a way of being, I don't know if this is a word, but uncurious about the experience of the other. So, you and myself, John, we accepted the offer to facilitate this conversation, with us both having different but complementary experiences and education related to restorative justice, related to reconciliation, related to working with people at the margins of society. So we put together this workshop, and I remember feeling anxious, as that second-guessing part of me usually does with a big opportunity. Just feeling anxious about, okay, what are we going to say? Am I qualified enough to speak on this subject? Even though, at that point in time, I was just working actually as a counselor with men in the criminal justice system, living in a residential facility. Anyways, I remember us just having a lot of conversations to talk about, what do we want to share? What's the heart that we want to share? What's our goal with this? How can we incorporate, this is in a church setting, so how can we really ground this in like a spiritual Jesus-shaped lens? I remember coming over to your house on a Saturday morning, drafting our PowerPoint presentation and just building. It was a really beautiful experience of putting it all together. We put together a pilot presentation, invited a bunch of friends and family, folks from our inner circles to come and see our first workshop, give their feedback on it. We took that, built it into our presentation, and then did a run of, was it 3 or 4 more dates? I can't remember.
3, yeah. We did the beta in August, and then September, October, November.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful experience, welcoming people who were, it was being hosted at my church, but we saw people from all over the GTA, from different faith lenses, different background or involvement with the justice system, different level of awareness around what restorative justice is, and just had some really enriching conversations about what it means to humanize the experiences that people have when harm is done to a person or in a community, what it means to ask questions about context, about the role of racism and mental health and trauma on situations where harm is done. It was an experience I'll never forget. for so many reasons. So many of the stories that people shared during that time, and hearing a lot of the feedback, which was, for my second guessing part, affirming to know that people were blessed by those conversations. And it was really cool just to see this workshop birthed from just an opportunity that we hadn't necessarily sought out, but it was this kind of point of intersection between my world and your world, drawing from your work in the education system, and mine in the mental health world. What I learned about myself from that experience was how important it is for me to tend to that anxious second guessing part of myself, who feels, uncertain about if I am able to speak on any given subject, even if it's square within my experience in education. That looming thought of there's got to be somebody who knows more about this subject, or who can do a better job, or who won't be as nervous and anxious as I am. And I don't know if that part of me, again, ever goes away, but having that experience of doing the workshop and receiving people's feedback, both positive and constructive, was just a reminder that it's okay for me to speak. It's okay for me to step out in a format other than rapping bars and trust that there's value to what I have to say, to what I have to offer to others, and that it's okay if sometimes it doesn't land. Another piece I would highlight that I learned from that experience about creativity and collaboration is that collaboration is best when it's grounded in relationship. I really feel like the experience of working on that together with you in a space where we could just bounce ideas back and forth, just chill in your living room and really know one another, get to know each other's thought processes more deeply. It was really rich. It was really rich.
It's so great to hear that story and hear your perspective. So when we did the first one in Toronto, we drove in separately from the suburbs. And so we drove back, and you called me on the way home, like almost immediately. You were so excited. Like I could see, I talk about sparks. Like I could see it. I could, like, the fire was aflame. It was ablaze. You're just like, you had said something like, like, this is my passion, or you said something like, this is like, I want to do this. Like, I want to do more of these. And like, and I had enough of a rational thought, like enough of a rational perspective to say, yeah, we could do more of these. And I was pulling from a story that continues to inspire me from W. Kamau Bell. He's a TV host now, but he started as a comedian, podcaster. He's written a book. I've been fascinated by his journey because as a comedian, his first record was a mishmash of ideas, and he hadn't found his voice, or he would admit that. I enjoy his first record, but there's like silly jokes and jokes that don't age well, and at the same time talking about race and talking about it very intelligently. And he realized that he couldn't get into the race and politics conversations the way he wanted to on a stand-up stage. And so he rented a black box theater in the Bay Area where he was staying, and once a month he went and did this show called The W. Kamau Bell Curve, Ending Racism in About an Hour. It's a great title, obviously drew people. And he wanted to have the conversation on race and politics on his terms. And after 4 months, it had developed so much, and he had, input on it every time, and I think he had a director, and it morphed into this show that wound up getting him booked at colleges all across America.
Wow.
And then Chris Rock came to see the show and liked it so much that the two of them worked on getting him a TV show.
Oh, wow. I had no idea that was the background.
And then the TV show was on FX. It didn't last for more than a year, and that was pretty crushing. And then he wound up getting a show on CNN, and now he's on season 5 of The United Shades of America. And so it's been a real cool journey to follow, but it's all around this, for him, the approach was, if I was famous, what kind of art would I do? If I didn't have to grind it out, if I could just make the thing I wanted to make, what would I make? And that's how the bell curve came about.
Right.
And it's really opened my eyes to the thoughts of loosening the boundaries of what I think art can be. And I gravitate to stuff like that,
Yeah.
Everyone loves The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Of course.
I also hold in high regard the Unplugged album.
Okay.
Because she's singing and rapping with a guitar. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you can do that. And do I have the boldness to do that thing that is mine?
Right.
And no one else's.
Did you purposely just say that thing?
I did not.
All right, that's dope. I like that.
We're gonna take a minute and just sing.
I am curious, if I may ask, how does that influence your creative process? That thought about like anything goes. After I made my first record, I'm like, okay, I don't want to do another one like that again. In what way?
Especially in terms of process.
Okay.
I want to have a different process. I want to try stuff that I hadn't tried before. I want to set the bar out of my reach.
Right.
And then work until I can get there. And so every one of them has been different. Yeah, every one of them. I did live with the Round 2 EP. I did live recording and merging instruments with the beats, and then I did a all collaborations EP, and like with one producer, and just like bought a bunch of beats, and then like set about collaborating with as many people as possible. And then I worked with like folk singers and turned it like, and we made an EP. We didn't make a record like we thought we were going to, but live instrumentation, but with like a folk tinge, like a group with the Custodians, where I'm mentoring younger artists, and I'm like playing the executive producer. Like I'm always like trying to set that bar higher.
Right.
So now the projects are like that hasn't gone away. So it's just like, and every time you have that nervousness and anxiety of how daunting this feels.
Right.
But that's where the growth happens for me.
Yeah, it feels like it would be more unfamiliar every time. If the desire is to break out of the box each time, it's like, wait, what other boxes exist? Like,
yeah. It
sounds like you've taken so many different approaches, but that is it sounds exciting at the same time.
It definitely is for me and sort of keeps me engaged. I mean, you have, as part of, when I joined Lost and Found first as a creative director in 2016 and then as a signed artist in 2017, like our songwriting took a leap in that point as a team. Like we learned a lot about songwriting and, we're better for it. But, I worked on the Everyday album and like there's a batch of songs, a batch of beats sitting there with choruses. And like that next album is ready to go.
Wow.
But it's too much like the last one.
Okay. Yeah.
And I caught writer's block. And that's not the only reason why, but I'm thankful for it, even though I was mad frustrated. Because like I've written the hooks and the beats and everything's sitting right there. But I can't finalize this.
Right.
And I'm thankful that that's happened now because over time, the ideas have morphed and changed and merged and evolved. And now there's stuff that's really exciting and the music's still good. That's me. And then I guess then, in this decade coming up, my ideas have expanded outside of music. That's the other thing where it's like, okay, so now can I take this to the written word? Can I take it to public speaking? Can I take it to the stage? What can I do?
To a virtual stage right now.
Yeah, the virtual stage indeed. So the Kamau Bell thing, I was like, I've always wanted to do that. What would a Jon Corbin show look like in a black box theater? Hopefully this decade we'll get to find out. But when you told me that thing about like how I want to do more of these, I was like, oh, we could do that. And that's what I was thinking of. We definitely could. That's I was feeling very like matter of fact and resolved. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to do such and such. We're going to get people around us, and we're going to present it to them and get feedback, and then we're going to find a venue and we're going to do it. And it evolved into something really cool because you said like it happened at your church, but they sponsored it.
Yeah.
Right. Like we got a very nice venue that that would cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But because they saw something in it, they put their money. They backed it essentially.
Yeah.
With some significant resources that really helped it really took the burden off of us to help us put together a really engaging evening.
Yeah, majorly.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I like what you talked about the merging of education because for me, I felt like my role was working on the teaching side. How do we teach? How do we organize this night in a flow that's going to take people from point A to point B in a way that allows them to process everything that they need to process? And it wound up being, 2 hours or 2.5 hours?
It was 2 hours, and we always ran out of time.
Yeah.
Because the conversation was so rich. And then the beautiful part was we would be able to stick around and just connect with people more one-on-one afterwards.
That's where I felt alive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever shared that with you, but I go home and tell my wife, like, yo, I had this conversation after the thing, and I have some new friends now from that thing, and like connecting with people. I've even like had like, sort of spontaneous words of wisdom for people just in the moment, like hearing their story and being like, yo, I respond to this in some kind of giving way. Like it would actually amaze me because the way that you were geeking out driving home from Toronto about like the content and bringing people to this. And I was like, I had that same reaction about meeting people and having connection. I was like, that's actually a lot of why I enjoy teaching.
Yes, absolutely.
you create these conditions where you are able to provide knowledge, but you're doing it in an interactive and collaborative setting if you're doing it properly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for us to be able to run a workshop where we would give them questions and have them talk about it and then share and facilitate and just trust that the room would open up in a positive way or positive direction.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're talking about, criminality, we would gently check people on the use of the word criminal.
Yeah.
Right. As a labeling tool and the connotations that came with that and the social realities that would come with that.
Mm-hmm.
So we would sort of, we were gently eroding that label and thought out of people's mind at the very, very least. So there's a lot of minds that you could step on in conversations like that in large groups.
Yeah, absolutely.
And every time the trust that we put in people, the conversation was really rich. And it wasn't one note. It was varied, and we were able to work through stuff. And just a really emotionally enriching time.
Yeah.
It
was truly a gift to be able to experience that together. And again, highlights for me the value of doing it in relationship.
Yeah.
Because without having a sense of safety in that space, without having a sense of it's okay to be in process and to maybe confess some things, some beliefs, some viewpoints that people were holding, some hurts that people were holding. Without the safety to do that, it wouldn't have been what it was. And I really feel like the safety and the relationship that you and I displayed while facilitating that really contributed to creating that atmosphere for people. So I'm grateful for that.
That's a good word. I wouldn't have thought of it that way. I really like the way you illuminate that. That's good. Yeah. And it makes sense, right? Like that leadership in that sense.
Yeah.
It was really, that's a fond memory.
Yeah.
My hope was for 2020 to be able to take that further, and obviously things changed. So I hold it now as a fond memory, a recognition of the work that we did, and with some hope of being able to share that further in some way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for bringing that story.
My pleasure.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with my story here on the Jon Corbin Podcast.
Hey, yo, my lady and I got married on March 7th. What better way to start than survive a pandemic? The honeymoon is coming soon, but can't sweat it. Till then, we take PayPal, wiring, and debit, y'all. But real talk, life is anything but the norm. These cats wildin' on anti-vaxxer discussion forums. Oxymoronic, how we all together, all alone. Stuck at home, hopping online to find love and warmth. Playoffs, graduations, and weddings give way to chaos, isolation, recession. We grieving losses and fighting major depression. Keeping cautious, finding ways of progressing. Gotta eat on less, feeling beyond stress. Like the lineups for the ER and EI checks. All the fear of in the media that we digest.
Welcome back to the Jon Corbin Podcast. I'm here with my guest, Orijin, a.k.a. Jordan Heywood. It's now time for my story. Are you ready, Jordan?
I'm so ready.
All right. This story occurred just a few months ago. At the end of 2020. Now, you mentioned that we were part of a lost and found family. It used to be a record label. The business side of that dissolved, and we moved into an artist collective where, yourself, myself, and Mark Dirksen work to support each other along with our extended family of collaborators.
Yes, sir.
And one of the things that has remained from the label setup was the communication through Slack. So we meet monthly. We talk about stuff we're working on, talk about things we're going through in life, support each other. It's been a really great partnership. We collaborate together, but also we're kind of like the first people to hear the new stuff.
Yeah.
And we hold even that second guessing or that or that insecurity when like, yeah, I don't know if this is anything. Can I share it with you guys? And then the folks are like, whoa, this is great. And is what usually happens because, we're all pretty good at making music and stuff. So demos are going around all the time. Again, I live for the demos. So it was a quiet year for you.
Yeah.
Artistically.
Yeah, man. I didn't release anything except, okay, that's not true. I released one track, and that was...
One single, yeah.
Yeah. I released Distance, which was produced by you, and was
it's a banger.
It's a really fun track, man. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
No chorus, just straight bars reflecting on the experience of social distancing and just shifting life into what we now know at the time of recording as normal in this global pandemic. A lot of people were putting out tracks at that time. So I thought, you know what? Yeah, I want to put out a track to kind of like what I was speaking about before, put out a track to help people feel like you're not alone in this. We're all going through this. It's hard. Let's just normalize this. And also offer some words of encouragement and hope. So that was the purpose with that one. And it was a hard year. You mentioned earlier that it's been hard for you to write as much lately. You've been revisiting older material. Likewise, it's been a real challenge for me to find not only the creative energy, but man, just physically, psychologically, the days are full. I'm working from home, doing everything from home. The space and the desire to sit down and let's write a track. It's just not there.
It's not there.
How it was some time ago. And even on the regular, I'm not somebody who produces and writes tracks very frequently. I'm already by default in normal conditions a slow cooker as a creative. So all the more this year, my mind has just been in different spaces. So I decided to run with an inspiration, a song idea that came to me one evening in the shower. Sometimes you're just like singing some random melodies and it was just like boom, and it stuck to me. And then I sent this demo, and I'll let you pick it up from here. Thanks for letting me drive for the last couple kilometers. Yeah.
I want to put it in reverse for 1 second. Like the Distance song is phenomenal. So your response, like you said, it was a slow year for you in terms of creation. Definitely for me too, in terms of writing. But I've been trying to find outlets because the pressure's been so high in my life. So I've been making beats and started making beat tapes. I did one in the winter time called Still Winter, and then a couple like within the pandemic, Nothing is Normal and Keep Moving Forward. And
man, they're so good. They are so good.
Thank you. That I just had to do something. And so then, Distance came up from you doing a writing workshop with some young people, and you needed a beat.
Yeah. That was just for my job. We were doing a mental health workshop with some youth and wanted to create a space for them to creatively express what they were going through. Put it down in words as like a journaling exercise, but something that they could have some fun with. As kind of creative, a little bit of self-care, going on for some of our youth who are into, writing and music. So yeah, I hollered at Jon and said, "Yo, can you toss me just some random spare beat that you got? You got anything that's just kicking around? We'll use that for the workshop." You graciously offered it up.
So I don't have anything kicking around. I've heard Shad.
Crude, yeah.
I've heard Shad say, if he has got 12 tracks on an album, he's writing 12 tracks.
Yeah.
I basically make stuff, and if I like it, then I'll use it, and if I don't, then I throw it away. I don't like to have stuff sitting there. I actually just, we're recording third week of January. On the weekend, I went through my 2020 project folder and deleted the stuff that's not hitting right now.
Wow.
I'm going to trust that I've got more creativity.
Wow.
And keep the faucet on, which I've talked to you about, and that's kind of my motto when it comes to teaching creativity to young kids. It's like if I'm freestyling like in the shower, I used to be like, "Oh yeah, I got to remember that. That's really good." And then I would ruin the rest of my shower because I'm just trying to remember these 8 bars that I just wrote. And I'm like, well, if they're good, they'll stick, but otherwise, like, just let it go. So
it takes a lot of faith.
Oh yeah, I remember just wanting to leap into that. And it just made for a more free-flowing time. Like, I'm creative. I will continue to create. Why do I have to be stingy with it?
Yeah. That's good.
So I remember, like, putting on a baseball game and making a beat on a Sunday afternoon just with my kids buzzing around. And that's what I did because, I don't have stuff kicking around. I make it. And so I put some care into it, and maybe more than you would expect for like a beat for a writer's workshop.
Yeah, certainly. It was masterful. Everybody was wilding out. They didn't want to write to it because they didn't want to corrupt this perfect piece of art.
Perfect.
Yeah, but actually though, everybody went buck wild when they heard the beat.
It's dope.
Yeah,
that's dope. And that, I think you sent a video to me about like of some people listening. That made me feel good.
My coworker Curtis, shout out to Curtis.
So again, that same thing. Like again, why be stingy? That's a good beat. I could probably rap on it, but no, that's yours. So you take it and do with it. And then you got sparked and started, and we're like, "You okay if I write to this?" I'm like, "Absolutely." I gave it to you. And then came out with, for me, a masterful verse, and that speaks to what we're going through, and also provides like spiritual perspective, which was highly, highly necessary because it wasn't just about like you and your situation, but it was about like, where is God? Where is God? God's with the hurting. Well, we got hurting right now. Like you just brought the community and the world to our ears to say, pay attention. You care so much about these people stocking your groceries. Remember that they don't have a living wage, right? And it was that kind of vibe, or that and I love it. So your one song in 2020 has done a lot for me, and then I guess if it's okay to say this, like, has just continued to elevate my respect for you as an artist.
That's okay to say, brother. I'm not going to ask where the respect level was at before, but
that's why I hesitate to say
but
it. But
it's all up.
It was already high.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So like you had already blessed me in 2020, but for sure. On a personal level, another reason that it's been a quiet year for you artistically is you got married in March.
I did.
And we were able to, this was before the world shut down, but just narrowly.
Bro, the Saturday before everything shut down. If our wedding was 1 week later, it would have looked very different.
Yeah.
Grateful.
And it was a great time.
That means a lot because I know you carry a rubric to rate
bro,
how great weddings are. So,
bro, there's no wedding more fun than my own wedding. And yours, I think yours was the closest.
that's saying a lot.
I just want to say for the audience that when we got to the reception, there were donuts, big donuts, just sitting there. And we're like, can we take these donuts? What a win.
I love it. I love that that's the highlight.
It caught me off guard. Give me some big craft donuts. I'm a happy guy.
That's great.
Yeah, so I was able to celebrate with you in that way. So our Lost and Found, our conversations are happening monthly. We're hearing demos all the time. We're hearing long range plans and ideas, and then it's a quiet year for you, and then all of a sudden comes this celebration, and you were singing at the beginning, and I think the demo, there weren't a lot of hugs at the countdown. That's pretty consistent, right? That came out pretty quick.
Yeah,
and it's pretty consistent to what the final version of the song is.
Yeah, it's identical.
Yeah, and so we have gotten used to you singing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you are used to it yet.
No, no, it's gonna take some time. Yeah,
you've done some dope songs with singing the lead.
Thanks, man.
And I feel your anxiety certainly on that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and then the beat drops. And it's just this very familiar breakbeat vibe, and it's just like this ba-boom bap, ba-boom boom bap, and you're just singing celebration, and that's when once those drums hit, I was hooked. I caught what you said about the song, and essentially, once you listen to the song, folks, you'll recognize. But the tune is this. Again, this is written, the end of the year, but we haven't hit New Year's yet, and it's this picture of the the 2020 New Year's celebration.
Mm-hmm. Technically 2021, but the transition. From one to the
transition, that moment, that night, what does it look like in a pandemic? And so it requires this imagination, right, to create that imagery and to do that right off the bat. There's no intro to the song. It's just him coming up and singing. There weren't a lot of hugs at the countdown, but we sure had champagne. Help me with the next line. Times Square
in 4K and surround sound, but it just ain't the same.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, shoot. I'm looking at this I'm picturing this desolate New York City landscape where, there's nobody there. And we're all at home, watching it on TV and, trying to approximate what that was and how that can be really somber, right?
But also a form of celebration nonetheless.
Yeah. And that's where you take us. So you have this imagery right off the bat, and it sticks with me so well. And then move into the pre-chorus, I guess. It says, we're still here, we're alive, and we're not forsaken. And that's reason enough for a celebration. Mm-hmm. And I go, man, if this isn't poignant. I'm sure I'd love albums from you, but, if you give me those two songs in 2020... I'm healthy and happy. I would say that, just in terms of my musical, palette. I feel very well fed by you in 2020.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like those words, man. I'm glad.
And so the demo for me was it. But, and now I understand your second guessing nature, and you hummed and hawed on it a little bit, and can I do it? And can I do it in enough time? And, when we target these special days. I remember you did a song, on Valentine's Day about being single.
Yeah, back in 2017.
Yeah. What was the name of that joint?
That was Waiting Game.
Waiting Game. Yeah. We tend to drive these songs towards certain events. And I'm like, well, you got to get this out before 2020 is over, but this song's gonna last, even in ways that people don't think.
Mm-hmm.
And so, through our dialogue, with Lost and Found on Slack, we're kind of like, yeah, I think you should do this. And that launched you into several weeks of like trying to put it all together. Can you like explain a little bit about how it all went down?
Whew. It was a panicked effort. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. So I'm trying to remember when the inspiration hit. It was like mid to late November, maybe like November 18th, 20th, or something like that, when the song idea first happened. And I came out the shower and hopped on Ableton and just started like recording demo tracks, like demo layers of my vocals and the kind of harmony, the kind of melody I would want. I beatboxed the kind of rhythm I wanted, the drum pattern. I was looking through different drum samples that I had, put together the most like rough scratch version of the track that same night. As soon as the melody and those opening words, there weren't a lot of hugs at the countdown. We sure had champagne. Something, just ain't the same. And I had the celebration part too. Didn't have all the words in between, but that was it. Had a rough production, had the opening lyrics and melody. And then I just came back to it day after day. The song wouldn't leave me alone. And so I had a strong sense saying, okay, like, if I'm going to get this out, and at this point, it's like November 27th, right? Mm-hmm. We were moving on December 5th. So we're packing up our house. Like, we got things to do. We're super busy. We're both still working. So, yeah, there's a lot happening in life. Didn't really have the luxury of space. I mean, I guess when I'm talking to you, I always have some sense of luxury because there's less humans in the space. Anyway, my cat can take care of himself, But it was stressful to carve out the time, lose some sleep in the evenings to work on the song, to sit with it and try to write out a verse and then a second verse. But it was so, man, when I say that collaboration grounded in relationship is so fruitful, can be so fruitful, it is no joke. Having a call with you and Mark saying, hey guys, like, let's put the beat on loop. Let's all listen to it at the same time, open up a Google Doc at the same time and just jot down some ideas. What direction do you think I could go with this? What are some things that you would want to highlight in a song that was covering some of the like major events of the past year? And if I always have this problem, I say everything I want to say in a song in 16 bars in one verse. So when it comes to writing verse twos, I always get stuck. So it was Mark's suggestion, hey, what if you use your second verse or some part of the song to talk about the celebration that was your wedding this past year?
Right.
And I wasn't sure how I was going to tie that in, but I held that idea for a few more days until I was really just sitting with it. And it fit. So, yeah, that collaborative process was huge in terms of my writing and just fitting the ideas together. When I write, it's kind of like, it's kind of like when you're cooking and you grab all the ingredients and put them all on the counter first, and then you add them all together as you're cooking rather than grabbing one at a time. So for me, hearing you guys' input and coming up with my own ideas, or writing like, okay, here's 4 bars, here's 2 bars. I don't know where this is all going to fit yet, but it's all on the counter. And then I need to sit down for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes and fit it all together and add it all in and find a home for every section, for every idea, and cross it off the margins of the page as I place it in sequence. That's what my writing process is like. You guys helped majorly with that. Next step was me just sequencing the production and working on just fine-tuning it a little bit more. I don't produce a lot of my own music, so it really was a stretch and a healthy challenge for me to work on producing this one. I also don't sing that often on my tracks, which you mentioned. I do believe that I have a good voice. I believe I have a talent for that. It's not as refined as I would like to further develop that skill, I should say. But I believe my voice sounds good, and I appreciate the affirmation of people telling me that. Anyways,
word.
So I felt like, okay, I also wanted my voice to carry it because it's kind of me telling the narrative. At the same time, I felt, okay, you know what? I think it will just drive this further and not be a distraction for people who are singers like that, if I can have somebody back me up on this. So I gave a call to the homie Aubrey Nerona, incredible musician,
incredible dude too,
incredible human being.
Yeah. Shout out to Aubrey. Big love to Aubrey. So he was pleased to hop on that. He found some time one evening after work, after putting his kids to bed, to record the backup vocals that you hear on the track. And I really love me some horns on a track. Mm-hmm. I always have, just like the texture of getting like a brass section, but I've never had that. Never had a live brass section on a song of mine. And this song in particular just felt like it could use that. I don't know what gave me that sensing, but I decided to give a shout to my dude Gareth Inkster, who I went to high school with, and we've been homies from time. And his style of music is very different. He's kind of like, oh man, I don't even know how to categorize. Kind of like alt rock, sometimes a little more folky. But he's a gifted multi-instrumentalist, plays guitar, piano, drums, trumpet. So gave him a shout, asked him if he would be able to add a layer of trumpet, or a few layers rather, of trumpet to the track. He killed it. Really just elevated the energy and the feel, the celebratory feel of the song. And the final piece of this whole project was, and at this point, I'm trying to get this thing out and ready to go before the end of the year. At this point, we're at like December 15th, 16th, something like that. It's about to be Christmas. Yeah.
And I'm in conversation with the big homie Xavier Sorrow, who is from Phoenix, Arizona. He's an artist and he is a video and a videographer, a video editor. So yeah, I was in conversation with him around supporting to edit a video. So Amanda, my wife, and I, we were able to shoot some footage at home on the couch with some help from my mom and my brother. And yeah, shot it over, sent everything over to Xavier. He cut it all together just in the nick of time. And we ended up with a really dope, really fun video with clips featuring cameos from some different friends and family members, folks from our different personal circles. And I heard a rumor that somebody who looks just like you, John, was in the video.
It's true.
Yeah. And
I showed it to my class.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did. They said you're famous.
I'm glad I could be your ticket to fame. Yeah, so very unique, stressful, anxiety-provoking process of getting that song produced, finished, released just in time in order to have it out at that moment for New Year's. But I'm super grateful for all of the hands that were part of the process. Super grateful for just what it is. I love the song. I feel really good about it. Yeah, that's the story.
That's a great story.
Thanks, man.
It's like I said, I actually remember telling my students before the break, I'm like, you follow this guy because this song's going to be really important. And, throughout this school year, I've been teaching virtually, and I have no nonverbal communication with my students. If we're in the classroom, I can see whether you don't get it. I can see whether you don't care. I can see whether you are so stressed with the weight of the world that you're not even hearing what I'm saying. And I can act accordingly.
Yeah.
But I don't have any of that. And so I've had to drive the bus a lot in terms of sort of content or contact and communication and just mindset stuff. Now I'm not in the greatest mindset this year. It's been a heavy season, but I do know that I have had more practice in gratitude than maybe some other folks, and that there's a larger story with that. It's around having triplets. And the sort of day-to-day, they're here and alive and not forsaken. And that has really pushed me towards gratitude. I'll have to save that story for another time, but having that practice is something that I've been able to bring to class just a bit. We have this thing called What's Good Wednesdays.
Nice.
And we check in every day, we answer a random question. It's usually something that provokes intense discussion, like which is the best fast food chain, or what kind of donut is the best donut, and the arguments get intense. But on Wednesdays, I say, what is making you smile?
That's good.
Like, what's really good, and it can be big or small. And so that's been fun. It puts a positive. It creates a positive air, if you can say that, in a virtual space where you don't see how people are doing.
Yeah.
It's been good to do that, and so it was meaningful for me to hear this song about all of it, about acknowledging loss, acknowledging what you miss. And then just, in terms of a musical vibe, just an incredible bed to lie in that makes you feel very warm and comforted. And again, that presence, we're still here. And it gives you, the song just evokes all of this, all these memories of what's happened this year. And just this then quick perspective of that we are here, that we are struggling, surviving, fighting, still moving forward. It meant a lot to me. I think that, I sort of passed you the ball, and my story is you telling about how this song came together. But one of the things I love about music is watching this stuff come together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could tell those stories for days, and I want to hear them too, right? I think they're creative and inspiring for people, and then in this additional layer, I think the song is creative and inspiring, and I've been brought to the present because of that tune and every time I listen to it. And so I want to thank you for making it, and thank you for that fight with the creative limits on. That is the stressful thing, and I believed it since I heard the demo that the song's gonna live. It's gonna have a life.
Yeah, you contributed to its life, man. Seriously, by believing in it and by being actively like part of the creative process. So you're welcome. And also thank you for being part of that process and helping it to make it out into the world.
Say word. I'm so glad. All right, Orijin, if people want to connect with you on the web or check out your music, where can we send them?
Y'all can find my music on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you stream your tunes, at Orijin, Orijin, because in the words of Decisive, rappers can't spell.
Very true.
Yeah. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at The Real Orijin. Again, that's Orijin with a J. And wearing my other hat, you can check out my counseling practice. And that's a partnership between myself and my wife, Amanda. We're called Enliven Counseling Services. If you check out Enliven CS, like counseling services.ca.
That's what's up. That's a big new venture for you.
It is. We have been managing our own practice for coming up on a year and a half now. And we both have about 4, coming up on 5 years of experience specifically doing psychotherapy. But we've just chosen to go a little bit more public with the work that we're doing, as we're just seeing such a need for it, and trying to create a little more space in our own lives to be able to dedicate to serving people in this way, to offering the service. So we're out here.
I love it. Thank you so much, Orijin. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
It has been so good, and I expected nothing less than a gift connecting with you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Word. All right. See you soon.
See ya.
Peace. Hugs at the countdown. We sure had champagne. Times Square in 4K and surround sound. It just ain't the same. I guess it's time for new traditions. I miss my auntie's laughter in the kitchen. The comedy and drama of the family affair. Didn't gather around the table, but for grace we say a prayer like, we're still here, we're alive, and we're not forsaken. And that's reason enough for a celebration. For a celebration. A celebration. A celebration. A celebration. I see the world is divided, but I'm still in one piece. Better acquainted with silence and the feeling of grief. I'm getting daily reminders this life we're living is brief. Congratulations for making it by the skin of our teeth. They say whatever don't kill you makes you wiser and stronger. I don't know if I buy it, y'all, I'm just tired and somber. We lost Gianna and Mama, plus the king of Wakanda. Too many neighbors to name when we couldn't visit to honor. Some people raising a ruckus and complain on the net, while others slaving for ducats only to stay in the tent. I know these times are not easy and the pain is intense, but I still got some good reasons to be grateful for breath. I'm praising Jesus for refuge, calls to nieces and nephews, and nostalgic sitcoms with the seasonal specials. For work at home in pajamas and for warmth in the night. For black joy in the struggle and those who join in the fight. 'Cause yo, we're still here, we're alive, and we're not forsaken. And that's reason enough for a celebration. For a celebration. A celebration. A celebration. A celebration. Yeah, we threw a heck of a party. All our friends in the crowd, there was a whole lot of hugging. 2 rings and some vows. We didn't know what was coming, but when I think of it now, we saw the end of an era, at the beginning of ours. Yo, we were caught by surprise, had to go with the flow, but all this quality time has helped the both of us grow. So this a ode to everybody steady holding some hope. Raise a glass, I'm proposing a toast. Hey, We're still here, we're alive, and we're not forsaken. And that's reason enough for a celebration. For a celebration. A celebration. A celebration. A celebration. For a celebration. We're still here, we're alive, and we're not forsaken. A celebration. And that's reason enough for a celebration.